Welcome to Patrick's Book Reviews. All right, welcome back, everyone. I guess I shouldn't be so presumptuous as to say welcome back, maybe just welcome in case you're here for the first time. If you are coming back, I don't know what's wrong with you, and if you're here for the first time, I'll apologize in advance. I'm going to attempt to do my first ever original tag today, and I was a little hesitant to do this for really three reasons that I can think of. One, I'm not sure. Maybe someone's done this tag before. It sounds like something someone would have probably done. I know there's the newbie book tag. I've never done that. I've just kind of seen that one around. I don't know if I've ever watched one. So maybe that covers some of this material. And secondly, it's just, this is a little personal. I know a lot of people probably don't want to say where they're from or talk about where they're from. And so, I completely understand that and apologize if it is invading anyone's privacy potentially or anything like that. And so it's a little nosy on my part is basically what I'm saying. And then thirdly, it might be a very boring tag as well. I did try to, especially with the last two questions, I tried to make them a little more bookish in nature. So hopefully it'll at least connect to, something with books or booktube. My basic motivation, I guess, for doing this tag is just that I've been watching a lot of book channels, and I feel like there's kind of this little corner of booktube that we got going now, and I was just kind of interested in exactly kind of where people are from and what your areas are like, or places you've lived, things like that, of that nature. So again, it might be very boring, but if anyone does want to participate in it, I'll try to tag quite a few people for this one. And if I didn't tag you, it's probably just maybe because your channel is bigger or something like that, and I felt I just felt like I'm fishing or something like that, so I'm trying to avoid that. But I'll jump into this. So this is the "Where are you from" tag. I know it's grammatically there's no verb to be in there, but that's on purpose. Number one, where were you born, and what was your town or city, or even your state or your province or your country, whatever it might be. What was it like? So for me, I was born in Fort Dodge, Iowa, and I'd say for Iowa, it's like a medium-sized town, I guess, because Iowa is a very small state located in the Midwest of the United States of America. And maybe like 25,000 or something like that would have been the population. So it was kind of the biggest town around it for a while. And so around it were a lot of cornfields and farming areas around. But I lived in the town, and I would say it was, being that size, it wasn't quite small enough to be what you'd imagine like a quaint Iowa town to be like, but it wasn't quite big enough to have a lot of those things that, teenagers would want, I think, or, it didn't have the excitement of a city. And so, many of my friends, I think, ended up moving out of that town. But I would say it was a good place to grow up because there wasn't so much entertainment. There was like a shopping mall and a movie theater and stuff like that. But I just remember spending a lot of time just outside, and we had to kind of find entertainment for ourselves. I'm old enough that we didn't have like the internet and whatnot when I was a kid. So I just spent a lot of time running around the town with my friends or going to friends' houses. And I think it is good for creativity as well, just not to have had, all the electronics, I guess, that people have now. So we'd have to kind of figure out stuff on our own, play hide and seek or run along the railroad tracks, or even like starting our own bands as we got older in high school, stuff like that. I think for that reason, it was a good place to grow up, I would say. And then the second question, where do you live now? And what is your town, city, or country like, however you want to go about it. So now I live in Thailand, in the northeast region of Thailand, so kind of a rural area of Thailand. And the province that I live in is called Amnachalaon, and it's of the 77 provinces in Thailand. It's one of the smaller ones, but I live in what's called the Ampere Muang, which is like the capital city of my province. So in Thailand, every province, the capital is just called the capital, maybe something like New York City and New York. So I guess my town or city is the biggest city within my province, but it's still not a super huge town. But it is much bigger than the first time I lived here. So I was originally a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer, and that's how I originally came to Thailand back in like 2004. And so the town was much smaller back then. It's grown a lot since then, and I moved back here in 2012. So I live here with my family, and it's kind of, I guess, similar to the town I grew up in a way, because it's also surrounded by a rural area, but it's a town. It's got many of the things you'd need. I think at this point in my life, I'm fine with not having a lot of stuff around because I don't really do much. I don't need a nightlife or anything like that. And just like the home in which I'm recording this video is a couple kilometers outside of the town. So my mother-in-law has a house in the town, like exactly 2 kilometers from here. And so we split time between those houses, but this is kind of the country one, if you will. And yeah, I think it's a nice place to live and to raise kids. So like I said, there's maybe not a whole lot going on, but like people are really, really friendly. It's very safe. If you walk around, you don't have to worry about crime. I don't lock up my bicycle if I go anywhere. Even at night, I don't really lock the doors of my house, to be honest with you, because I have like a sliding door on the bedroom, so I'll just leave that open with the screen and stuff. And I do have dogs, though. Yeah, that's probably the most dangerous thing are dogs, just because there's stray dogs everywhere. So if you walk around at night, or people just don't have their dogs fenced in, so that's the thing I'd worry about. If I walk in the dark, it's always just dogs are popping out of nowhere and whatnot. But people here, I'm really not worried about being attacked or anything like that at all. I don't know why I'm getting into this topic. The third question, have you lived anywhere else in your life? So between where you're born and where you live now? Yeah, for me, a few places. I went to the University of Iowa in Iowa City. So, another small town in Iowa, but a bit bigger than my hometown. And then I've also lived in Minneapolis. And now that's kind of my base in America, because my parents live in the Twin Cities area. So whenever I go back, I go to Minneapolis. And when I'd finished the Peace Corps, I met my wife here in Thailand, and then we moved back there for 7 years or so before we came back to Thailand. So it's the last place I lived in America. It's really the only place I lived in America as a working adult, and it's where I always kind of go back to now. And maybe if I did this video 10 years ago, probably not a lot of people worldwide would have known of Minneapolis, but unfortunately since then it's kind of become much more in the news, especially lately, but even within the past, 2 years or so. And then the more interesting questions maybe for BookTube. So the next question is, who are some famous authors or works of literature even from your home? So you could take this from where you're born or where you live now, or however you want to do it. I kind of just broke down from a few different places I've lived. So for Iowa, there's not a whole lot as far as like Iowa-born authors. The one that I saw that is Bill Bryson, the travel writer. He's from Iowa, and he's written about Iowa. And also whoever wrote The Bridges of Madison County, I know is from Iowa. I've not read that book or seen the movie, though. And then more famously, though, from the University of Iowa where I went, there's a famous writer's workshop. And there's quite a few famous writers who have gone through that program. Possibly Kurt Vonnegut is the most famous, maybe. He wrote Slaughterhouse-Five while he was working at the University of Iowa, or teaching in the writer's workshop. Flannery O'Connor went there as a student, so she was in the writer's workshop. John Irving also, and Wallace Stegner as well. He also went to the U of I writer's workshop. So it's quite famous for like a somewhat, obscure university, I guess. Also from Minnesota, also not a ton of, I would say, literary giants from Minnesota. There's F. Scott Fitzgerald would be the big one. He was, I think, born and raised in St. Paul. And then, after he became famous, I don't think he ever lived in Minnesota again. I think he kind of lived in Paris or wherever, probably New York, I don't know. And Sinclair Lewis, famously, is also from Minnesota. And then as far as Thailand, the area I live in is like a very rural area, like I said. So there's not any famous authors that I know of, but there is someone famous as far as like he's been featured in a lot of books, and that would be like religious books. There's someone named Lumpu Cha is what we call him here, but Ajahn Chah is how he's known mostly in America and in Europe. And he's a Buddhist monk from the Theravada tradition, but he's most known for the forest temple tradition, which is kind of unique here to this area of Thailand somewhat. And so he lived less than an hour from where I live. And then in my actual town, there's like some sister temples, or at least one sister temple of his famous temple. And so I used to go hiking quite a bit around that temple because there was like maybe 12 kilometers of hiking paths throughout the forest that no one ever used. So I always like to go out there. I haven't done it in a while. It's very grown over. So it's always somewhat of an adventure going out there. But yeah, he's just known for the forest temple tradition. And so he's got several books of his like Dhamma talks that have been translated to English. A lot of famous American and European monks came to study under him in like the late 60s. Jack Kornfield is like a kind of famous American author from that Buddhist genre or whatever. And I know Ajahn Sumedho was another American. I think had lived in Europe after he was in Thailand, but they all came to this area of Thailand and stayed with him. And he's Ajahn Chah's got a famous collection of his teaching. I think it's called Food for Heart. I'll try to throw that up there. And so he'd probably be the famous one from my area. And then from the larger Thailand, I don't honestly know a lot about Thai literature. There is one famous poet, though, that I always hear students talk about because he'd written a big Thai epic poem. And so there's a holiday each year where they'll celebrate kind of Thai poetry. And he's the one they always talk about. And I have to pronounce his name like exactly 100% correctly or no one understands what I'm talking about. As I've mentioned before, Thai is a tonal language. And so his name, I believe, is Sunthorn Poo. And that Poo is very important. That's his last name. And if you, like a lot of times I'll forget it and I'll just tell the students, I'm like, who's that one really famous poet? I think his name's like Poo or Po, and they're like, they won't know what I'm talking about unless you get the Poo, then everyone knows who you're talking about. I was talking to my wife this morning because I was like, I wanted to make sure I pronounce his name correctly, and she couldn't understand what I was talking about. I was like, the famous poet, like every day there's a holiday, the kids have to celebrate his poetry for one day, and she's like, what? Poo? I don't know who that is. And then I was like, Poo, 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 and then she's like, oh, Poo, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's the one. And then another kind of famous writer, I think there's a few other ones, but the one I'm aware of is a book I actually have, and this is Krukrit Pramod, and this was written in like the 50s. I think it was serialized in a Bangkok newspaper, and so he's got maybe 3 pretty famous novels. They may have all been serialized. He's very interesting though. He was Prime Minister of Thailand. I've mentioned him in a video before, and I think he's also got royal blood, some relation to the royal family. And he was also in a movie. He starred in a movie with Marlon Brando. I think it might have been The Ugly American, which I think was based in Vietnam, if I remember right. But he played a Vietnamese character in that movie, I think, even though he's Thai. And so this is one book that he wrote, Four Reigns. And I'm actually excited to read this. This is historical fiction about Four Reigns in Thailand. I think it goes from maybe King Rama V to King Rama IX. I might be wrong about that, but it's covering 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, they wouldn't go to 9 then. I guess maybe it's 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not sure. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, he's written a couple other novels that I've actually heard of. One is Lai Chi Wit, or Many Lives in English, and another one is Pai Dang, or Red Bamboo, and I think those have been translated to English as well. So yeah, he would be from Bangkok. So I live very far from Bangkok, not like a 8 or 9 hour drive, which for Thailand is very far. For America, that's not that far, but I'm very far removed. But yeah, I just don't know of a lot of famous Thai authors. So this would be the one. And I had one last question. Question number 5. Oh, what's the book culture like in your town or your area that you live? So as far as like, do you have libraries? What's the bookstore situation like? This one's fairly easy for me to answer. There is one library in the town that I live in, but it's very small, and I've never actually gone in it. I'm pretty sure they don't have many English books, if any at all. It's not widely used. I'll ask students about it, and no one ever has gone there usually that I talk to. I should go there sometime just to see what it looks like. As far as bookstores, I think there's only one, and it's a really small bookstore. There's kind of like a Walmart or something like that here, and it's called Big C, and they have one bookstore called I think Sayed. Is within that, but it's just Thai books as well. And a lot of the books here will be like study books, like the kids will have like books to improve your test scores, or things like that. So it's a lot. It's like maybe 50%. It seems like is stuff like that. So I just have zero interest in it. But in the town that's about an hour away from me, there's a shopping mall, a big mall, and they had several bookstores that were all Thai stores. But then one of them now has like a kiosk in the inside, in which they basically like another English bookstore that's kind of been downsized came and like partnered with them, and so they have a little kiosk within the bigger Thai bookstore, and so that's nice because they do have a pretty good selection for how small it is. They have a lot of like the Collins classics. I know maybe those aren't everyone's favorites, but I can get a lot of classics easy and cheap like that. And it's just kind of fun to actually go in a little area and be able to, I do like browsing through bookstores, and that's one thing that I do really miss living in Thailand. I need to check out Bangkok more. I don't spend a lot of time in Bangkok, and I just don't. I'm not good at like navigating big cities and whatnot, and I hate spending time in traffic, and I don't like bartering with taxi drivers and all. I hate all that stuff basically. So I don't go there often. I need to find somebody like from Bangkok that likes going to bookstores who could like cater to me for a day or something like that. But yeah, that's basically it for this. The main reason I did this tag was just that I just kind of curious as to like where other booktubers are from or the areas that they live in, because I know there's so many booktubers from all over the world, and so I'm always kind of interested to hear a little bit more about that without hopefully being too nosy. So obviously, feel free to not do this tag. Obviously, that's about it. And I do have a little bonus material that I will roll right now. Okay, welcome to Eating with Patrick here in Thailand. I'm going to do what everyone would expect me to do and have Vietnamese food for lunch. So this meal that I'm having today, it's I don't know. In Thailand, they say it's Vietnamese food, but I'm never quite sure about these kind of things. You never actually know. It's like in America when we call something Chinese food, but they say this is Vietnamese food, and it's called nam nương. Difficult to say because the second word starts with an NG sound, and so I have a very difficult time pronouncing words that start with an NG sound. But yeah, nam nương, which is basically you get a giant bag of vegetables, which I keep in the bag because I don't want to wash another dish. You get a bag of meat. I'm not going to eat all this by myself either. And then you get another bag, which I did put on a plate, where you get some different things. You get like a star fruit. This is an unripe banana that they cut up. And then you get some sliced garlic and some chilies. Up to you if you want to put those in there. Those are very spicy. And did I show a bag of meat? I don't know if I showed that. Pork. Yeah, like grilled pork on a stick. And then you also get a bag of sauce, which I can't really show very well. But you put that in a bowl. And yeah, I try to do this with as few dishes as possible. And so yeah, usually this is one of those meals that like I never want to have because I know it requires me to assemble each piece as I eat it, and I don't like to do that. But it is really good. Every time I have it, I'm like, oh, that was actually really good. So what I do is you take a piece of, try to get like a big piece of lettuce or something, and you throw that in there, and then you get some spearmint, throw that on, and then whatever this stuff is, there's another leafy vegetable. Basically whatever you can find in here, you just throw in there. I don't know, this might be the same thing. And you get all the leaves, And then you take this stuff, so you get your unripened banana, your cut star fruit, look at that, and your piece of garlic, keep the vampires away. And I'm actually, now that I'm getting older, I tend to lay off the chilies, so I'm gonna skip that. And you, with your chunk of meat, you just kind of break off part of the pork. So let's break off a small piece of it, put it on there. And once you get all that done, just throw some of the sauce on top, like that. And once you got everything together, you just kind of fold it into a ball and stuff it in your mouth and eat it. Mmm.